They say a person's true face is only revealed in the dark. For 10 years, I believed I knew every single detail about my wife, Maya. But a single misplaced tool on a Tuesday afternoon changed everything. I had no reason to suspect anything. Our life was comfortable, predictable, and quiet. Yet, as I pulled into our driveway at an unusual hour, a strange car was parked just outside. I didn't think much of it at first. In a quiet neighborhood, people park wherever there is space. But when I unlocked the front door, the silence inside felt heavy. There was a scent hanging in the air. It wasn't Maya's perfume. It was a sharp, heavy, masculine cologne. My heart began to beat a little faster, though my mind refused to accept the obvious. I walked down the hallway, my heavy work boots making no sound on the carpet. As I approached our bedroom, I thought I heard a rustle. When I opened the door, Maya was sitting on the bed. She was wearing a robe, holding her phone, looking slightly out of breath. She seemed surprised to see me, but she quickly masked it with a smile. She offered to make me coffee, her voice a little too high, her movements a little too fast. But the masculine scent was stronger in here. I asked her about the car outside. She shrugged, claiming she hadn't noticed it at all. My eyes scanned the room, looking for anything that didn't belong. That is when I looked toward the closet. It was large, built deep into the wall, with plenty of room for a person to stand inside. I took a step toward it. Suddenly, Maya lunged forward and grabbed my arm. Her grip was tight, desperate, before she quickly let go and tried to laugh it off. She offered me some leftover pie, trying to pull me toward the kitchen. But I didn't move. I looked down at her hands, and they were shaking. I knew then. I moved her aside, gently but firmly, and pulled open the closet door. A man was standing there, fully clothed, pressed against the back wall. For a second, the world went completely quiet. My first instinct as a construction worker was to use my hands, but I forced myself to take a breath. I asked him who he was. He stammered, claiming he didn't know she was married. I pointed toward the living room, where our wedding photos were clearly visible. He had no answer. I told him to leave before I lost my temper, and he ran out of the house as fast as he could. But the real nightmare was just beginning. I turned to Maya, expecting tears or an apology. Instead, her fear turned into cold, sharp anger. She didn't look remorseful. She looked furious that she had been caught. When I demanded answers, she tried to talk over me, claiming I was overreacting. As I stepped closer to tell her to stop lying, her expression changed. Before I could react, her hands flew toward my face, nails sharp and digging deep. She clawed across my eyes. Instinctively, I shoved her back to defend myself. She stumbled into the dresser, but I couldn't see clearly. One of my eyes was burning with sharp, blinding pain. I sank to the floor, holding my face. Then, I heard her footsteps coming back. I managed to open my uninjured eye just in time to see her holding a canister. A cloud of burning mist hit my face. She had pepper sprayed me. The pain was unlike anything I had ever experienced. It felt as if my skin was literally on fire, the chemicals seeping directly into the deep scratches on my face. I dragged myself to the bathroom, desperately running cold water over my eyes. I lost track of time. I was completely defenseless, terrified she might return with a weapon. Eventually, the distant sound of sirens cut through the panic. When the police entered, they found me blind and shivering under the running water. As the paramedics washed my face, the officers began their questions. I told them everything, completely honestly, including the shove. But Maya had a very different story. She claimed I was the primary aggressor. She told the officers I had choked her and that she only sprayed me in self-defense. It was a calculated move to send me to jail. But she made one fatal mistake. The physical evidence did not match her lies. There were no marks on her neck, no bruises on her arms, and the police found heavy pepper spray residue on the bed frame where I had been sitting, proving she had attacked me while I was already down. Maya was arrested and charged with aggravated domestic battery. She was released on bail the next morning, but she was legally barred from returning to the house. When I finally returned from the hospital later that night, the house felt entirely different. The silence was heavy, almost suffocating. The scent of the masculine cologne had faded, replaced by the faint, clinical smell of the chemical wash the paramedics had used on my face. My eye was bandaged, and every blink brought a sharp reminder of how quickly a life can be dismantled. It felt like a bad dream, a surreal nightmare from which I couldn't wake up. But the physical pain in my face was very real. The divorce was swift and final, but for Maya, the true cost of her actions had not yet arrived. She was a passionate educator, deeply committed to her career. She tried to keep her arrest a secret from her school administration. I knew I had to act. I wrote a formal letter to her employer, detailing the violent charges against her. An educator working with children cannot harbor a record of domestic violence. She was dismissed almost immediately. I wanted to make sure there was no room for rumors or twisted narratives. I spoke openly to our mutual friends, our neighbors, and any of her family members who were willing to listen. I didn't exaggerate and I didn't lie. I simply told the truth, exactly as it had happened on that Tuesday afternoon. When you expose a liar to the light of day, you don't need to invent stories. Their own actions are more than enough to ruin them. Her mother called me days later, but when I answered, it was Maya screaming in rage. I simply reminded her of the restraining order and hung up. Her marriage was gone, her career was destroyed, and her reputation was shattered. She tried to rewrite the narrative to protect herself, but in the end, the truth was the one thing she couldn't escape.